This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology. You're listening to episode number 60 with Pavel Bains of Bluzelle and Marcelo Garcia Casil of Maecenas and a small boy who wants to say something to the whole wide world.
Okay, in the news. Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash of the past couple of days has been seriously pumping. It's risen about 80%, nearly double in price since yesterday, in the past 24 hours. And a large chunk of this is down to it being listed and available on Coinbase. We've talked about Coinbase a number of times. We're both users of Coinbase. It's one of the go-to places for relative newbies to cryptocurrencies to start their investment. And it was listed on Coinbase within the last 48 hours. Available, I think, to create wallets initially, and some buying and selling wasn't quite ready. I think they had a little bit of a slow launch of that, but now it seems to be fully active. You can buy and sell Bitcoin Cash. And if you look at the price charts compared to regular Bitcoin original, then there's a marked difference. Bitcoin itself has been creeping down over the past week, following record highs over the past few weeks. And Bitcoin Cash has suddenly leapt, as I said, doubling in value in the past 24 hours or so.
So would you say you think that people are taking their money out of Bitcoin and spreading it around other currencies?
I can't speak for other people. That's certainly something that I've been doing over the past few months. I had a little bit in Bitcoin Cash, largely from the fork back in August, but I've traded a little bit and sold a little bit and bought a little bit through other means, not through Coinbase. Yeah, I think it's a sensible thing to do. I can't guarantee I can give the best advice over which of those currencies is going to leap and double in size next, but I think it is, which may have different values, certainly, but different use cases as well. Things like Ripple, I think, will have a strong use case, or certainly a potential use case. Things like Ethereum definitely has a use case, and Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and other currencies, Litecoin, which I think we might come on to later. They're the ones that attract me personally. So I've got a few wallets with a few different coins across those different cryptos.
Yeah, I agree. Coinbase is the place which I recommend for newbies, and a few newbies, shall we say, to the cryptocurrency world have used it with much success. And they are just dabbling in it at the moment. And personally, I find spreading my investment over many cryptocurrencies means that, yes, the value is going up, but it's also interesting to watch which currencies are going up and the relationship with those currencies and Bitcoin. And as you say, I think there's a lot of movement within cryptocurrencies where people are trying to make a quick buck rather than being more long-term investors. I've been reading about a lot of predictions for Bitcoin. It was this show, wasn't it, Mark, where we said about the prediction of Bitcoin hitting 10,000 by Christmas.
As it merrily marched past 20,000 a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And now I think it's moved back down again and is probably settled. I think they're all important. I think they all have roles to play, certainly over the next year. Whether they're going to be there for the long term, well, only time will tell. But I certainly think I pick things, the coins that I keep hold of based on what I perceive as their usefulness going forward. Can I use this from my smartphone to buy some services or products? Yes, I could see myself doing that. There seems to be enough apps and user accessible services that I can use those. Then maybe not a great deal of range of different things I could do with them right now, but that will only grow as time passes.
Yes, I think next year we will have to do a program about how to get your money out of these cryptocurrencies and where best to put it. That might be a good one.
That may be a good one. I think definitely 2017 has been the year of the ICO. and there's been a huge spate. You know, we're getting conversations with potential blockchain companies who use blockchain technologies and distributed ledger technologies, and are launching an ICO to help with their funding. That's the most interest we get in terms of people wanting to come on the show. There's no doubt about that. We want to do a different range of organizations and companies, people who are happy to talk to us just about the joy of blockchain and the potential use cases. And hopefully that changes next year as maybe a spate of these ICOs calms down, and some of the earlier adopters of ICOs, or early people who are getting involved in ICOs, actually start developing solutions with the millions of dollars that they've accumulated through ICOs. Maybe early next year we'll start to actually see some people who've got some clear, tangible products on the line that are delivering genuine user need-based services, that we can actually get to grips with some of that technology. That was something I'm really looking forward to in 2018, seeing to real life use cases that starts hitting the mainstream. I think ICOs, cryptocurrencies themselves, has hit the mainstream. It's in the news every day now, but the use cases for the technology underlying that hopefully start to bubble to the surface soon.
What are your thoughts about the sort of larger companies here? Everybody's talking about blockchain and wondering about it. What about people like Amazon, Google, and Apple? They haven't really said much about blockchain technology, and you'd expect those sort of people to be talking about it and trying to get on that bandwagon, perhaps.
Yes, and I think certainly they have been significant names that I've not yet seen at any of the blockchain or Bitcoin events that I've been to in London. You do start to see some of the IBMs of this world and Red Hats and other companies, traditional tech companies, but less of the cloud organizations so far. Clearly there was stuff in the news a few months ago about Amazon buying into some crypto related domain names that kind of suggested or hinted that they might be maybe launching their own cryptocurrency at some point in the future, or maybe just trying to reserve those domain names so somebody else doesn't launch the Amazon coin or the Amazon Ether. But definitely there's something there. You would think the likes of Jeff Bezos and the guys in Google and Alphabet would be wanting to get into this, because there is such potential in the technology. Again, the currency is the currency, but I think that the blockchain technology is sufficiently has sufficiently high potential that you would think that the big cloud guys are going to get behind that in a big way and start making those solutions available through Amazon Portal and Google Cloud Platform and other solutions like that. Charlie Lee is an ex-Google employee, so there's definitely people in those big organizations who are thinking about this kind of tech.
Definitely, and Amazon would be the perfect organisation to actually use that. Or perhaps they're going to launch their own blockchain type of platform for distributors, and then they just end up buying those distributors, a bit like they did with Whole Foods in America.
Yeah,
interesting.
So of course, Microsoft is another example of a big cloud platform. They've been interested in blockchain technologies for some time, and I think I went to a Microsoft event a couple of years ago when the first time really I heard about Ethereum and Ether, how Microsoft were starting to provide cloud-based Ethereum hosting to setting up Ether nodes and stuff like that. So they were definitely aware of it a number of years ago, and it's all gone a bit quiet. There's no kind of great big reveal as to now we're launching Microsoft branded blockchain solutions. There doesn't seem to be any of that, but they're certainly enabling some of the Ethereum and other blockchain solutions on their cloud systems.
Excellent, all good news. Interesting.
So, tell us something a bit funny, and what's been going on in the fun world of blockchain?
Well, you know me, Mark. I do like to find out exactly what's going on in the fun world of Bitcoin and blockchain. And there was a guy arrested, I think it was in New York, for selling Chuck E. Cheese tokens as Bitcoins. And he raised about $1 million. Now, all I can imagine he was doing is standing on the street corner and doing the typical salesman routine of, I've just managed to get hold of these Bitcoins, I need to get rid of them. I can sell them to you for this, and showing them the current Bitcoin price. I think that can be done in this day and age, and people actually believe it. People in the world are all walking around with smartphones. They can easily Google to say, what does a Bitcoin look like, and check that. But no, we made $1 million selling fake coins.
Well, you know what they say about a sucker born every minute. Somebody's going to find somebody a little bit more gullible than them and try and make a fast buck. So, yeah, that's very bad, very wrong of him, and the book should be thrown at him, but you kind of think, well done you for pulling the wool over people's eyes.
Yes, you can guarantee when he came up with that idea, he wasn't eating a salad. There was definitely beer involved, and he was yes, you know what we should do? There we go.
I got a great idea.
Great idea. You know what we've put all our guns and drugs money in Bitcoin, and why don't we try and sell Bitcoins, pretend ones? Yes. You can imagine it, can't you?
Absolutely. So yes. Off the news, lots of movement in the past couple of months around Bitcoin. We've talked about that already. Some predictions coming out the past few days that the highs of $20,000 that we briefly hit will sink to lows of around the $10,000 mark again. Hopefully not much lower, personally, hopefully. But something people should be aware of, keep an eye on. Maybe that's an opportunity to buy into it a bit more. Maybe $20,000 per coin was much too rich for you, but actually now there is a bit of a dip. Maybe the dip will eventually lead to another peak again. Maybe now's the time to go out and look at buying your first cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash. Now that's easier through Coinbase, Ether, Litecoin.
I mean, I'm used to seeing Bitcoin, and then today I was at the gym and they mentioned Litecoin in there. I'm just like, wow. Okay, that's the first time I've seen that.
It's so cool to see all the interest and the growth, and there's a lot of haters out there. I'm not. Don't be fooled. A lot of people are just telling me it's a bubble. It's, you know.
Well, here's my things. Like I come from a finance background, and I've been more analytical, and every thought process I've had over the past year, I've just basically thrown out the window. And here's a couple key things. Is why like you said, these haters and what they're saying. One, banks and stuff, they have to pour water on it because their shareholders and their customers going like, how come I can't get into Bitcoin? And the only way you can defend that is to say, because it's a bubble, it's a Ponzi scheme, and blah, 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 blah. Because otherwise their shareholders are like, why can't I buy this asset? Right?
Yeah.
Makes them look bad. The other thing that they don't understand is they're not on the street. They're not in the communities. They don't understand the term hold on for dear life. There's guys in this who are like, no matter what, I'm not selling. And you've never seen that. Like, I know a guy who's been in Bitcoin for a few years, and I was talking to him the other day, and he said to me, he goes, Pavel, I will ride this thing to zero just to see what happens. So when you hear that, that's why when people say it's a bubble, it's this, and, it's like, no market have you ever had, like stocks, real estate, where the people say, I am going to hang on for dear life. You know what I mean? Just that term.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. It's because even some of the questions, like, when people talk about even they're worried about an ICOs, that, whales come in, they're going to dump. It's like these guys who put in big money, they're not looking for 20% return, get an extra 20% just because of their bonus. They're looking to get 5, 10x each time.
Yeah.
They're not the small guy who puts in $5,000, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with $5,000, but if that guy got 20%, he's happy. He's like, I made $1,000. The guys who are putting in $500 million, they're not going for 20% gains. That's nothing to them anymore, right?
That's a good point. And I struggled. One of my neighbors was saying, well, what's to stop Warren Buffett from buying up all the Bitcoin? I was like, well, nobody wants to get rid of their Bitcoin. And there
you go.
We haven't mentioned you on the podcast yet. Would you mind kind of just introducing yourself just to the fans and talking a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is Pavel Bains, co-founder, CEO of Bluzelle. We are building a decentralized database protocol for basically the decentralized version of the internet. So how we see it is, we're creating there's a new form of the internet getting created, everybody knows. And we like to say that, Ethereum's like the operating system, so it'd be like iOS or Android. You've got things like Golem playing the role of a supercomputer. You've got, Filecoin, CS storage, doing file storage, similar like Dropbox and AWS. And the role we're playing is Oracle. We're providing that database layer to store all the 20 billion devices that are projected to come out over the next 3 years, and saying a lot of data is being stored, being exchanged. Where's all that going to be stored? And a decentralized database is the best place to do it.
And you're able to pull from like different blockchains somehow?
Yeah, so our goal is, people ask that often, is, hey, which blockchain are you built on? We're like, no, we're not built on any. We're building it from ground up. And the reason is that our goal is that we want to be the de facto database for all of them. So obviously start with Ethereum. That's where most of the dApps and the early projects are. Connect to that. But then we're looking at things like, Neo, Zilliqa, whether it's Hyperledger, Corda, whichever situation comes, one that somebody's building a dApp on there and go, oh, I need a database layer. Well, Bluzelle's already integrated in.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And you told me earlier that you're in Singapore, but you sound American.
Grew up in Vancouver. Then I went to UCLA.
Okay, I apologize. I didn't mean to insult you.
No, not at all, man. I'm proud of going to a great school like UCLA. Spent some time in Silicon Valley. My co-founder did as well. Then came back, and then we moved the company from Vancouver to Singapore almost 2 years ago, February 2016, because at that time we were really focusing on the enterprises and the banks for using blockchain, and we were a blockchain tech company more, just a generalist, and we thought, okay, go to a financial center. Singapore seemed really big on fintech and blowing up that space. So the thing with Singapore is it's a city-state, so when they get behind something, they're like, okay, we want to be the leaders in this. So the government almost makes it that everybody knows about fintech. So fintech was the big thing, and that's a big thing they've been pushing. And so everybody in this city knows like fintech. That's what's going on. We're going to create that center here. And then when you have all the banks, all the major global banks in one city area and within a few blocks, you can just connect really fast. And then what I've also noticed is going through the Ethereum meetups for the past year or so in Singapore with, the guys I know who put them on, and, we presented a couple times. The numbers are just getting bigger and bigger. So much that I don't think I've been into a lot of cities in the past 5 months. Singapore, if your registrations don't get at least 100 people, there's something wrong with your project. And the good ones, like our last one had like 250 people register.
That's awesome.
And those are the good ones, again, 200 plus, guys, girls, whatever. They're all coming out to see what's going on.
Are these people of all ages, or are they mainly like young adult age?
No, I would say from college level up to, probably senior level bankers.
Fantastic. And you mentioned that your background is in finance. Do you?
Well, I actually come from, so I did my schooling in marketing and finance. And then when I started working, almost like kind of self-taught and pushed myself in finance just to understand that kind of like the CFO type of roles. But I've always really been a product person. So I was in the video game industry. So it was actually a kind of an easier transition going into blockchain and combining basically passionate stuff like finance, hardcore tech development, cutting edge things. So I took finance and video game kind of cultures and put them together.
That's incredibly interesting. Did you do any like video game work when you were in LA?
I used to work so I always did like CFO, COO roles for game companies. So for a while I was working for Disney, where they had 7 studios around the world. So I would work on the finance budgeting of those 7 studios. Then ran a couple independent ones, like one was 3-Wave Software out of Vancouver. And the cool thing we did was we worked just on the multiplayer aspects of games. And in doing so, I got an opportunity to work with companies like Electronic Arts, Activision, Atari, Microsoft, just because we were a specialist in multiplayer.
This is kind of related, but a little off topic. I was looking at a box of cereal. It had the basketball game, NK.
Oh, yeah, 2K.
Yeah, thanks. And it says at the bottom, register for free virtual currency. And I was like, what? And I looked into it, and it's like, what's it called? Like e-game, or what's the term here I'm looking for?
Esports?
Esports, yeah. And it's huge, and like little kids know about it. And I'm like, that's got to be blockchain somehow. That's got to be related.
It's the stuff about gaming, and this is where I kind of move this into like the blockchain and, what's going on with the cryptos and things, people just don't understand this dynamic is there's certain cultural niche things that are just, we can't explain. Like, have you heard of Twitch TV?
Oh, yeah.
Like, who would sit there and think that people want to sit there and watch other people play games?
It used to drive me nuts when I had to watch my...
But you and I would, if I said that, I'm gonna start a show, a TV channel like YouTube, where I'm gonna show just people playing games.
You're right.
And everybody just kind of watching that. You'd think I'm insane. Like, who would ever watch that? But
yeah,
people do. It's just
yeah, it's a really good point. Are you guys raising funds, or how far along are you with your company?
Yeah, so we did. So originally, when we started out, like I said, we were doing like blockchain projects aimed mainly on enterprises. So we did that for about a year or so in Singapore. So we did some projects for companies like AIA, like the global insurer. We did a KYC, like a digital identity management system for 3 major banks who came together. So that was HSBC, OCBC, which is a Singaporean bank, and MUFG, which is a Japanese bank. And so it was while we were doing those that, we built pretty much a dApp over Ethereum. And we're like, wait, as we collect this customer data, you can't really store large amounts of data on the blockchain. So we had to kind of just take a Microsoft Azure database and kind of blockchainify it.
Yeah.
And we realized that that's not ideal. If you're having a decentralized app, you should have the whole stack should be decentralized. And then we said, if we have this problem right now, others are going to have this problem. And that's when we realized that was kind of our aha moment, that why don't we just build a brand new database protocol built on blockchain principles. And so that kind of got started in May. Then over the summer, we had a round of financing from some VCs in the region, so to really accelerate it, get going. And then now we're in the middle of just prepping for our ICO, which will be in end of January.
Oh, fantastic. We'll definitely have to put some links in the show notes so people can go to your website and learn more about that. The ICO thing is something that fascinates me, and because there's been a few companies out there that'll just raise money and then quit. Like they'll have a great white paper and raise millions, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't need to do this anymore. I have enough money. It's happened at least one time that I can think of, but I think Andreas Antonopoulos called it blockchain versus bullshit. We looked at ourselves why, like, we weren't raising traditional funds, and then somebody came to us who's in the crypto world and investment world, crypto fund, and they said, you guys should do an ICO. I'm like, I don't know. And they said, you guys have built real products. Your company's been around since 2014. You actually have a tech team. You have proven use cases that you can deliver. You should take this thing and run with it. And that's way better than others. So I think that's when it comes to any type of project or investor, they should look at team, market opportunity of the product. Yeah, it's going to take a couple of years, but this is all R&D right phase anyways. But as long as the market potential is massive, you should go for it. So they should look at the team, market opportunity. Hey, have these guys built something before, right? And then who else is backing it? Like for ourselves, some people have asked us, if you're going to do an ICO, why go get a VC, right? Like, You don't need it yet. You don't need that. And I'm like, well, I've got to finance. The VC still provide some of that due diligence, looking after you, provide partnerships, and kind of just making sure, like you said, that you're sticking with your game plan. Like, if you look at who it is, like if you give anybody in their 20s or 30s a lot of money right away, who has no financial training and just got it, they're going to screw that up. That's why athletes go broke, because they're 20 years old, 21, and all of a sudden had no financial training. And like, here's 200 grand, 300 grand a week coming to you when they had zero. Right. That's a recipe for disaster, right? Yeah.
So why would it change in the business world then? If you gave somebody who didn't have that training, all of a sudden, go ahead, here's some money, and it's limitless to you.
With your team, did it take you a while to put the team together? And are you all in Singapore, or are you kind of all over the world?
Yeah. So when we came to Singapore, we were 20. It was just the two of us. We just basically came with our backpacks and popped down and started networking and get going. And then so throughout 2016, we added 2 more people to get going for the projects we were doing. And then from April onwards, we added a bunch more engineers. Most of them are in Vancouver. And then now we're sitting at about 12 people, where 8 of them are programmers, engineers. So it was a slow build.
Well, I take saxophone lessons, and my teachers across the country. And I started paying them with Bitcoin, and then I realized I was paying like over $10 gas fees or whatever they call it.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, holy shit, this is not as slick as I thought it was. Maybe I should just pay him in dollars over PayPal. And then I was like, well, that goes against everything I was trying to do with this whole. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where we can just use cryptocurrencies the way Bitcoin was originally designed?
I totally believe in this token economy, that you will be using those. There'll be good ones that you can trade. Let's say, you're using a Bluzelle token for, the database layer. And it's like, hey, you know what? I've got some of these sitting here. Don't need too much. I need, some operating system or something else that I can purchase. And there'll be systems out there that they should be freely be able to pay with those tokens. The bigger one I see is, and I wrote an article earlier this year about it, is more cities should just be, big countries should not have national currencies. The cities should have their own currencies. It'll be better reflection for the city and improve their economics by having city-based currencies. Yeah,
that'd be cool. I guess the only conflict would be like if you go to a different city and you lose money in a what do you call it, exchange. But I mean, we lose money all the time. People don't realize that inflation is basically like getting your wages gouged.
Well, if the whole thing of a federated currency is actually pretty new. It's only like probably 150 years old. Like I think it was in the 1800s in the U.S. The different states had their own notes, and depending on the bank, they weighed them against each other, like premium to discount on how credible that bank was and how the economy is doing in that state.
That's a really good point. I mean, it seems like nowadays people have. Well, maybe I should just talk from my own perspective. People in my circle.
Yeah.
The state or the government is here to take care of us, and they'll make sure everything's okay. But it's like if my house burned down, it's like that's it. If I didn't have fire insurance, I'm SOL. The state's not going to come in and just give me a new house. It's not like. If anything, like if I had a great community in there, like, we'll help you rebuild your house, that would be one thing. But getting back to your point, it's not like the state has our best interest in mind with like these, I think, would you call it federated currencies?
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's like more of they want you to be dependent upon them so that you think you need them kind of thing. I don't know. That's just my theory.
I mean, I look at it as, you think it's like, let's just look at Europe, right?
Okay.
EU, great idea. Free flow trade, this and that. Euro, bad idea. The ones that didn't do it ended up being better because they because when you have your own currency and you're a small country, you actually have better control over seeing. Like, so if your currency all of a sudden is dropping, it's probably an indicator of your exports aren't as good as your exports aren't strong. So then you're basically importing more things in. And that's devaluing your currency. So it's kind of an early signal of saying, hey, maybe the stuff that we're exporting or importing, we should start becoming specialists at and start switching directions. So let's take something like Detroit, right? U.S. dollar is strong. The people there are like, oh, woohoo, I'm paid in U.S. dollars. Awesome. I'll buy all this stuff from Walmart or somewhere that's imported from China because it's cheap, and we keep bringing these cheap goods, but not really knowing that, hey, the people on the ground and the cars really aren't selling as well anymore. We can't export those. The politicians don't know because they're paid in U.S. dollars. But if they're paid in, let's say, in Detroit dollars or Michigan dollars, and that thing's devalued because of they can't sell as many cars, those politicians would wake up and be like, wait, my currency here is not worth much. We have to change something.
So that you would figure it out a lot quicker, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of studies that have been done around that. That's why they say look at things like Hong Kong and Singapore as city-states having their own dollars, being able to respond quickly because they are a city-state.
Assuming that after the ICO phase you guys go through is a success, which I hope so, I wish you guys all the best. What's the next step for you?
Oh, the big one is for our stuff is people always ask, like, what keeps you up? right? Aside from just the ICO, ours is just we need to build up our open source and our developer community, because we are really developer centric. We're asking people to, become essentially miners, but we call them producers, where they're going to rent out their hardware storage space. They want to, do well on the network so they can earn some Bluzelle coins. You need customers, developers saying like, hey, I'll store my data for my application on Bluzelle. So it's going to be really important for us to just, go around and building up that community from ground up. Getting people engaged, educating them about the product, not really about as much about the currency. It's more about what this product can do and why they should work on, the open source software that we're going to put out there. So that's really the big thing, is building that up. That's going to be the big challenge.
Where can people go to learn more?
Right now, the best place is our website, Bluzelle.com. And then we've got a bunch of videos there. If they follow sign up to our email news list or join our Telegram, we're always posting. But up until recently, and even still, we do a lot on the product. Just little short videos, even blog posts. We did a webinar 2 weeks ago, doing a sneak peek of the product, of how the decentralized database works. And then we're also going to take that 40-minute video or webinar that we did and chop it up into little 2-3 minute segments, so people can just go, oh, here's how security and encryption works on a database layer. Here's how latency is addressed, and just cover a wide range of topics so people can just click away and just really understand the product.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. Is there anything you want to add that maybe I forgot to ask, or maybe that didn't get brought up?
The one thing that always comes up, because it kind of mixes the blockchain world and, let's say ICOs and everything, and plus, because it's also end of the year, is, predictions for what you think will happen in 2018.
Yeah.
And I think the one that you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more, I wouldn't say enterprise level businesses, like huge legacy ones going more into the blockchain. You're going to see businesses that are probably mid-size, probably still worth regular business $50 to $500 million, but them understanding how blockchain can really push their business forward and adopting that. And then you'll see those type of ICOs happening, where you've got these businesses that are probably 5 to 10 years tech savvy, know it, and go, okay, now I know how to integrate this tech in, and I already have a user base and customers. I can just make my product that much better, faster, or to the next level. I think you'll see those type of companies doing ICOs.
Well, thank you so much, Pavel.
Cool. Thanks. I really like doing this.
Yeah, man.
I like the topics.
Yeah, let me know if you're ever back in LA.
For sure. Definitely. Might be there probably in the first quarter next year. So I'll ping you.
Take care.
All right. Thanks.
Welcome, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Can you explain to us what this platform, and then we'll ask questions.
So Maecenas is a platform that allows everyone to participate in the art market by buying and selling fractions of artworks, so paintings, sculptures. And we use blockchain technology to tokenize the artworks and divide them up into small shares, fractions, which investors can trade with each other and therefore build portfolios of masterpieces and track the prices in real time, very much like people can buy stocks of public listed companies and decide how much they want to own of each company and buy and sell them. So it's a great liquidity for fine art.
Wow. Is this something
Yes.
completely different that's never been done before? I funny enough, I'm an artist. But...
I'm not an art expert, so I don't want to get into technical definitions. But as far as our platform is concerned, we have a cost of structuring the financial vehicles, and therefore we can only work we have a floor of price for artworks that we can work with. And right now, because we just started and we're still not super efficient in terms of this process, we can only work with artworks that are at least worth $500,000. The objective is that over time we'll improve our processes, and through economies of scale, we'll be able to lower these entry points to accommodate for emerging artists.
So because as it is now, this is really quite a fine art market. But you're looking into the future where it'll soon be something. This idea of making it, what did you say, fractions of the value of very valuable
of an
art.
artwork. Yes, exactly.
That's interesting. You say you're not an artist, but you're certainly in the world.
Yeah, so well, I mean, this has been an interesting journey. My background is in financial technology. I worked for investment banks on the capital market side for more than 10 years. That was in London and later on in Singapore. And it was through my journey with my startup that I ended up in Geneva with some of my co-founders. Because we were selected to join an acceleration program for fintech startups. And Geneva is a very peculiar place. It's not the typical destination for startups. The dominant industries in Geneva are wealth management, commodities, and basically anything related to wealth. And fine art is one of the most prominent asset classes for wealth investors. So through the program, we connected with people from the asset management world, and many of them had a lot of experience within fine art, and we started learning about the difficulties of this industry, all the issues that the participants have, and how intermediaries basically make the whole process of transacting in fine art very opaque and expensive, because fees are in the double digits for anything you want to do. Say, you want to invest in an artwork through an auction. Auction houses could charge anything up to 25%. So if you are an investor and you're looking at fine art as an asset class, you have to pay 25% to get in and about the same amount to get out of your position. So that's really crazy in terms of the other asset classes, where you express the cost in basis points as opposed to percentage. So we start learning about the nuances of the industry, and we realized that there was an opportunity to leverage our technology and basically repurpose it or pivot into a platform that would look like what we have today, which is Maecenas. And in the process, we added some art experts to the team. So now we have two people who are based in Geneva and who lead the art practice for our company.
I saw you had quite a team going on your website, and I was wondering, I think you're going to need a Southern California office for sure.
Absolutely. We still we have a presence in 3 continents, but sadly not yet in the US. Because we recently have completed an ICO 6 weeks ago, and now we have a very large, I would say maybe small but growing community of people who are very enthusiastic about what we're doing, and many of them are based in the US, and they are almost demanding that we move to the US and we start operating in the US. So,
I knew it.
So I think it's not going to take us long to go over there.
Well, just in listening to you, I have my own personal requests, which I'll get to. But before I say that, because I can really go off on daydreams. So you're talking about like making a fraction of it. So it makes sense. You're like decentralizing the ownership of art. But what does that look like on a real level? Like I can see you're obviously a financial guy.
Let me walk you through the process. So obviously you cannot fractionalize art like you can fractionalize, say, commodities like gold or oil. Because obviously you would destroy the painting or the sculpture. So the way we do it is we create a financial vehicle. So this is like a legal entity that becomes a new owner of the artwork. So the original owner sells this artwork to the legal entity. The legal entity has a very particular structure that allows this entity to issue shares and to designate a specific blockchain to become the official register for these shares. So in creating this structure, what we're doing is we're allowing anyone who holds shares through this blockchain system that we operate to become a part owner of the artwork that the legal entity owns. So for all intents and purposes, this is just kind of like proxy to facilitate and link the shares that you own in this blockchain system that you can buy and sell, and you can trade with each other and have cryptographic proof of ownership. You ultimately have a legally binding contract that gives you economic rights over the artwork. So that's how you fractionalize it, basically.
My hope is that you are so successful in the fine art world that eventually you'll have another little alley within your world, the ghetto, where if you really want to slum it, you can go and get some less fine art, just cheap stuff, if in case you want like episode art or whatever, just micro payments for people's artwork, so you can use that image anytime you want, and it's now yours, and you don't have to feel guilty.
That's ultimately the objective. We like to say that we want to democratize access to investing fine art, and it's not a true democratization if we restrict which artists or which artworks can participate, right? So we know that we have to start with a set of artworks that we can work with, and we can't afford to make huge losses on every deal we make. So we have to start with the expensive ones. Also, because the concept is very new, it's going to be easier to attract people if we have Picasso's or Rembrandt's or Monet's on the platform than if we have some unknown yet talented artists, right? But once we make a name for ourselves and people become familiar and comfortable with using the platform, we really want to open this up to everyone. So we sort of long term see the masterpieces, the blue chip artists, as the kind of more established, safer, less volatile type of investments.
Yes.
Whereas the emerging artists will become a bit like the startups, where there's more risk involved. There's a lot of due diligence to be done by investors because these artists are going to be relatively unknown. But the potential upside is huge.
Absolutely. You have to learn somewhere on something pretty secure before you move on to the artists. Some are starving for a reason.
Exactly.
And I can say this as an artist, we're all on our journey. Just no judgment there. Is there anything coming up? You said there was an ICO, didn't you?
Yes. So there's something additional to the way the platform works. So we didn't want to democratize this industry by creating a centralized platform because it felt like a good step. An improvement, but not really in the right direction, because what creates huge fees and opacity is essentially centralized operations. Because once companies become too powerful, they can dictate the market. So we decided that we wanted to be transparent and to open up key processes that we have to run, and we decided to move those processes into the Ethereum blockchain. In doing so, we are relinquishing control over those processes, but what we're gaining is full transparency and trust by the participants. So one key process that we're moving into Ethereum is a very important process, which is the price discovery mechanism, the actual Dutch auction that we run when we bring a new artwork into the platform. So instead of the platform dictating what the price of the artwork should be, is going to be investors who, through the bidding exercise, set the price. So the process is fairly simple. It's similar to IPOs. So when a private company goes public, they typically use an investment bank, and this investment bank would socialize the public offer opportunity with their clients, and they would suggest a price range for the shares. And based on feedback from the clients, they would essentially arrive at a price that would make sure that demand for the shares is fully satisfied. So this process is somewhat of a grey area because you're trusting the investment bank. So we're taking the same process, but instead of acting as an investment bank, we are delegating that responsibility to smart contracts. So because this process is run by a smart contract, it means that investors can see exactly the code, and they can see exactly what's the criteria to select the winning bids and to set the price. And therefore they can trust it that we're not going to give priority to certain investors or that we're going to somehow manipulate the outcome. And we can only run these contracts if we operate our own token, which is the reason we had to do an ICO. So we now have a small but growing community of people who hold our tokens, and they can't wait to use them, because the only way you can participate in the auctions is by submitting these tokens, which have the code ART. So by submitting art into the auction contracts, you express your intention to bid for an artwork. You also state the price, and therefore you have a chance to purchase and own shares of a specific artwork.
The name of your tokens are art?
Yes.
Very clever. You nabbed it. Sounds like a good token to have.
Yeah, go now and grab some while they're still cheap.
That's great. Is there? So wait, did you put a date in there? And I didn't hear it. Possible. You said at the end of the month. We are at the end of the month.
So the ICO is already complete.
Oh,
it finished 6 weeks ago, and so now you have to go to exchanges to purchase art.
Right. It's a wonderful service. I'm so glad that you started this project and it flourished. You are clearly attracting a lot of really interesting people around you to revolutionize the whole field.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we are certainly very, very excited about the feedback that we're getting from the not just the crypto community, but also the fine art community. 3 weeks ago, I was in Milan with many of my teammates, and we were invited to participate in an annual event organized by the Deloitte Art and Finance practice, which is run out of Luxembourg. It's the largest art and finance practice in the world. And they produce once a year this more than 200 pages long report on the art market. And so we had the chance we had a booth there, and so it was very interesting to see the reactions of people who are mostly traditional and conservative players, insurance companies, family offices, asset management firms, collectors, galleries, to learn about the concept, which is incredibly innovative for them, and probably for most people, but for them in particular, it's not an industry that sees innovation very frequently, and they all demonstrated a huge interest. They're very keen on becoming clients and users of the platform. So we're very, very excited about the prospects. I really appreciate your interest in our platform, and I look forward to hearing the podcast.
Oh, I have a genuine interest, and I really want to see you grow and get bigger and bigger and get a Southern California office.
Well, when we get there, we'll certainly get back in touch and ask you for some recommendations.
I actually have people in mind right now, and you always have a home in beautiful, sunny Southern California with the blockchain shift.
Thank you very much for your time.
Likewise. Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Are you looking for an easy way to buy Bitcoin or Ether on a safe, secure platform? Coinbase is the easiest place to buy and sell digital currencies. Sign up today as a friend of the Blockchain Show, and if you buy or sell $100 of Bitcoin or more, you'll earn $10 of free Bitcoin for yourself and $10 of Bitcoin to support this show. Join now using the link in this episode's show notes at theblockchainshow.com. To learn more, visit theblockchainshow.com.